gain inspiration to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peace that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I want to welcome you to a winning Women's Wednesday. Let me tell you, I'm excited. I got two winning women in the building, y'all, for Women's History Month, and I'm ecstatic to talk to them. Alesha Washington is in the building, the president and CEO of the Seattle Foundation. Y'all, we're going to be talking a bit about philanthropy and, of course, women in leadership as we continue our Women's History Month theme and really glide into that topic with all of these phenomenal women and others who are joining me this month. So I'm excited to have her here. And then up next, we got Karissa Braxton in the building, Senior Communications Advisor for the Office of the Mayor right here in the city of Seattle. I'm excited to have her here as well. Y'all, of course, you know, before I dive into it with them, it is the top of the show. So I get to dive into it with you. Go ahead and tag and share this stream with folks who you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on the Day with Trae. If you can't watch us, you can still listen to us, y'all. Anywhere you find your favorite podcast, just search Converge Media Network in the Day with Trae. You'll find me on whichever platform is your favorite. So huge shout out to our podcast team for making sure that our audio is crisp for all you listeners out there. And thank you for also sharing the podcast. You know, during Women's History Month, I'm going to be serious about saying, y'all, help us grow here on the Day with Trae. I hear it from community and my guests all the time about how ecstatic they are to be here, but also about the unique that I get to bring to this world of TV and specifically daytime talk shows where we focus on our, phenomenal Black brilliance and local heroes, she-ros, they-ros, all in between, those who are the unsung. And so I'm so glad that they are here joining me today so we can put some faces to some of this phenomenal work that y'all are probably experiencing out there in the ethos. Well, I'm excited because up next, we got Alesha Washington in the building. We're going to be talking all about Seattle Foundation and women in leadership. What's up, Alesha?
What's up, Trae? Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on down. Well, I'm going to tell you, we've been talking about this a bit and, talking to Black women in particular about leadership.
Yeah.
There's something that I think a lot of Black women experience in terms of how we navigate that leadership. So I want to just talk to you a little bit. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit about what Seattle Foundation does.
Yeah, so Seattle Foundation is the community foundation for the Seattle region. What does that mean? Essentially, we harness resources for our collective good. And so folks with resources that want to give back to this community pool their resources with us, and then we make grants to nonprofits across this region. But the center of our work for me, since I've come on almost 2 years ago, really is about joy. So in the giving that we do, how do we center racial equity? How do we center justice? How do we center those whose voices have not been heard or have been marginalized from this work that allows us to go further? Because we are actually thinking about the collective us and how we move as a community and not just charity. We're not interested in charity. We're interested in transformational change and justice and joy at the end of the day.
Well, I'll say too, in my nonprofit days, I definitely rubbed elbows with Seattle Foundation.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciated was that there was some innovative approaches to, not only grant making, but building relationship. Mm-hmm. So I love hearing you say that in terms of transformative change, because they were like, in terms of how you show us how you spent your money, let's go out and have a cup of tea or something and talk about it, and it was very different in terms of that innovative style. How have you seen that that's working for the benefit of Seattle Foundation and your grantees?
Yeah. It's one of the things that actually attracted me to this region to take on this role. I've been in philanthropy in other places. I've been at kind of the intersection of public policy and philanthropy. And so I've seen it at its worst. And one of the things that attracted me to Seattle Foundation is that it was really practicing how to be philanthropy at its best, which is centered in trust, which is centered in building relationship, imperfect in all the ways, right? And this institution has certainly been on a journey to get to the place that it is now, thanks to leaders that came before. But it really is about centering trust-based philanthropy, which is what you described. if you have solutions to the problems and opportunities that we see, I trust you and want to give you the resources to do that well. And then I want to learn with you on the journey as you are doing the work and how I can be an ally and partner in doing the work with you. And I think that was present when I came here, and we want to deepen that. I think the next part of deepening that is for those with wealth who also care about this place, is that we start to see the world bigger than just our own interests or our own families or our own neighborhoods. But how do I, with resources, also give in trusting ways, also learn and be in a relationship and allyship with others. So we go from a place of being kind of a broad community in our own interests to a much more tighter circle that understands for us to get better as a place, we have to strictly be linked to each other's success.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think that that has been something that's been missing in the world of philanthropy for a long time, right? It was like, well, we have the resources. We think they need to go in these buckets. So we're looking for folks that fit these buckets. And there was less of an understanding or maybe an opportunity to really engage in community.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this to folks that are in other industries too. I mean, I was just really saying the same thing to Seattle Opera. What does it look like for y'all to have open doors to the opera because you're in community?
Yeah.
When you're building the relationships in community, it changes the game for community members, because now they don't just see Seattle Opera as this big thing happening.
Right.
They see the people behind it, right?
Yeah.
They get to see and experience you as a community member, and it changes things.
Yeah.
But I also think too that sometimes when we think about leadership and when we think about encroaching on how we grow as women leaders in particular, you know, there's always these nodes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about there's glass ceilings, there's all these things, but you navigate it. Tell us about some of the ways that you've navigated yourself to get to this position of leadership.
Yeah, I mean, one important piece for me throughout my career is actually believing that I'm more than enough, right? Believing in my gifts, believing in my capabilities. I was blessed with a mother who, despite our circumstances growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, in the neighborhood that I grew up in that was all Black, definitely felt the impacts of displacement and underinvestment. But despite those surroundings, she made sure that I always believed that I could achieve anything that I wanted to achieve. And so that kind of instilled belief in who I was and my gifts has guided me my entire life. But leadership as women, as Black women in particular, is not easy, right? We're watching this play out in national headlines. I have felt it since I've been in this community. I've taken my licks in leadership, adjusting to this role. But what I've learned and what is grounding for me really is about how do I rest? How do I find joy? How do I find grounding, whether it's through my faith, whether it's through my community, but being just as intentional about how I care for me and love myself first as I care about community and try to love community.
Well, that's a fine balance too sometimes to have to even not only find it for yourself,
Yeah.
but also figure out how to balance it all. I know people ask me the same things all the time, but I love hearing that you have some things that are grounding you, particularly when you come from somewhere else. Because I think I want to talk to you a bit about that too, because coming here and being like, all right, I'm about to get into the Seattle community. Sometimes there's like, okay, well, where do I find that node of community? How have you been able to navigate that?
Yeah, well, I got very, very fortunate very early on because of a wonderful person named Donna Moody, who we know used to run Marjorie's Restaurant. We're all waiting for her to open up again, hopefully sometime this summer. But Donna's on the board of Seattle Foundation. She's actually the vice chair of the board now. And when I got here and was doing one-on-ones with my board members, Donna said, I don't want to come to the office and do a standard one-on-one. Let's meet at Marjorie's. Let's then go over to Seattle Arts and Lecture to see the unveiling of the new season. Like, we just kicked it for an evening. And it was in that time of building a relationship with her that I met other people within her community that embraced me. And I think had that not happened for me so early on, I'd be struggling right now. So I'm indebted to her for the way she built community for me, because it's helped me find a group of people I can always come back to when things are hard or when I need to celebrate something, that care about me for me and not a title.
Yeah. See, that's a part of that self-care piece right there, right? Because I think that isolation in leadership is real. And they always say it gets lonely at the top, but you really do have to find it. And I'm grateful to have been here and build that community. But I love hearing that you got here and was able to establish that early on. Now, when you think about some of those things that you tell young folks who are like, man, I'm trying to get to a position of leadership. Man, I want to be a president and CEO one day. What are some of those things that you really want to make sure they understand in their own journeys?
Yeah. I think a part of it is really visualize yourself in the role that you want, and then think about the experiences, the opportunities, the people that you try to curate around you to help you get after that, right? And so way back in the day when I was just like an entry-level fundraiser at the Cleveland Orchestra, I knew that I wanted to aspire to levels of leadership. And so I spent time even then meeting with the CEO of the orchestra, meeting with the board chair, seeking out leadership development opportunities that could help me think about how to navigate professionally, because even then early on I was learning kind of the differences of showing up in this body and who I am compared to my counterparts who look different from me, right? And so really thinking about what were the opportunities I could get access to that could help me get a leg up, because I knew I was smart. I knew I had the gifts, but then it was just about the networks and the opportunities to get ahead, right? And so when I think about young people today, one thing that I'm happy about that didn't really exist early on in my career is that there is much more attention around authenticity, about taking care of oneself and their kind of professional pursuits that didn't exist like that when I was kind of coming up in my career. And I'm grateful to see that. And so, you know, networks and seeking out opportunities that help you excel are still very much a thing that I think people should lean into, but doing it as them true selves, right? Like really thinking about the ways that you can authentically be yourself, but also be smart about the people that know you, that you get to know, because that's how opportunities happen. It's that moment when an opportunity pops and someone thinks of your name, and then you're in the know for the thing, right? It's not always just the online searching and networking that way. It is really building relationship that helps you get ahead.
You know, it's great to hear you say that too, because I think so much of what I've been able to experience is exactly that. It's so organic.
Yeah.
And I think there's also something to be said about the levels of determination you have to have as even a young person, like you said, to have your eyes kind of on the prize. What is that vision I have for myself? How am I going to achieve it? And how are we going to actually be willing to receive the help? I think that's another thing too, because when you do have a strong vision, you have to be able to receive the help along the way in order to really pour into you and pour into that vision. But sometimes, you know, you think I got it because I planned it out. My trajectory is right. My vision board tells me, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean, you have to also be willing to take a step back sometimes and receive that help. And I really appreciate what you said too about just younger generation having an understanding of, look, I need a good work-life balance. I need to be able to do some self-care. If I don't, I'm not going to show up as my best self, and I'm going to eventually burn out.
That's right.
And I want to talk a little bit about that burnout, because you were just saying it. I mean, we're experiencing these attacks. There's something to be said about how we can build each other up when we do hit that burnout.
Yeah.
I mean, where were some of those hard times for you along your path that really either ignited that spark in you even more, or really allowed you to learn a lesson?
Yeah. You know, I didn't understand the importance of self-care until I broke down, right? And so in my early 20s, I can vividly remember having a nervous breakdown in the bathroom of the place where I worked because things had got that bad, right? Several months later, I'm in the emergency room because of a severe panic attack. And so when I say I had to hit rock bottom to then start to appreciate that I needed to care for myself and love myself first, that's the journey I had to take. And so that's why today I think I don't want to see other people have to hit that kind of bottom to know that taking care of yourself, and really it is like sleep and like water, right? It is walks, it is prayer, it is all the things that feed you and give you joy and give you strength that come first and foremost. Because the reality is, if I tap out of this role, people will say, "Oh," for a moment, and then they'll launch a new search for a new CEO and they will move on, right? And so if I know that is the reality of any work environment that I'm in, I have to prioritize myself and what I need. I think a part of that also shows up in when looking for opportunities, not just going for what you want and being desperate for what an institution can give you, but really thinking about what's the quality that I need from an institution and from a workplace to thrive. One of the greatest gifts one of my mentors ever gave me is like, I want you to make a list of your top 5. What do you need? Is it a short distance to work? Is it a boss that you are absolutely have the deepest faith and belief in? Like, what does it look like to have quality of life within your workplace? And then rate your opportunities that may come your way based on that. And then actually keep a chart that like you can objectively score that like, even though that seemed like a great thing, they only had 2 of the 5 things that I really needed, right? And so making sure that it's a give and take yes, they want you for a thing that you can do, but are they going to give me the thing as well? I think that very much is a part of self-care and a professional journey as well.
I just appreciate this so much. And listening to you speak, I started thinking about self-worth. Because when you're thinking about these opportunities, I think oftentimes we feel as though they're few and far between. And so I gotta kind of take, hey, I don't know when this next one is gonna come.
Yeah.
Some of that is a bit of a scarcity mindset,
Yeah.
but we put that on ourselves, or like society kind of,
Yes.
naturally can put some of that on you as well, just based on how we've experienced Black women in leadership,
Yeah.
specifically. But that idea of understanding your value, your worth, how did you go about that as you were saying, I know that I can do these things. I know I'm valuable.
Yeah. Two things really sparked for me on that. One is I have a very firm belief that what is for you is for you. It's not going to pass you, right? I think about that in my own journey to this role at Seattle Foundation. There was actually another opportunity in my hometown of Cleveland that I desperately wanted, and I prepared for, and I went after it, and I didn't get it. And I was devastated. And a week later, a recruiter started calling me about something called Seattle Foundation and would I consider it. And it was nothing that I was looking for, but I think it was one of the best decisions I've made in my career. And that moment came at the right time. So all the preparation I did for the other thing was actually my preparation for this. I just didn't know it in the moment, right? And so recognizing that is what is for you will not pass you by. I think the other thing, and especially for women and especially for Black women, is that know your worth and add tax to what that is. One of my greatest learning moments early in my career, still at the orchestra, I was out for drinks with my counterparts within the organization, and someone mentioned what they were making. And I realized I was making significantly less, but I was called on to do the most work within that office. That was my first learning moment of you're underselling yourself when you're going for these salary negotiations. And so whatever it is that they're offering you, go up, because the reality is they got it, right? It's auto negotiation. They're gonna start low before they actually land somewhere with you. And second, you're worth it. And so I think that ability to get past the fear of oh, it's too much. Oh, I shouldn't do that. No, do it, right? Because for self-worth, it also should be monetizing what you pay me at the end of the day.
Come on now, pay fee.
Me.
I love it.
Right.
I love it. Well, Alesha, I really hope this is not the last time you come here on The Day
Thank
with
you.
Trae. It's so refreshing to hear your perspective on leadership in your personal journey. Thank you so much. Of course,
you.
if folks want to tap in, learn more about Seattle Foundation, if they're looking for some of these amazing grant opportunities y'all offer, please look right there in this camera closest to me. Let them know how they connect.
So if you want to connect with Seattle Foundation, please check out our website. You can learn all about what we're doing. You can see our wonderful team that leads our work. And if you want to follow what I'm doing, please look me up on LinkedIn, to where I'm always talking about joy and our work and my own professional journey. So look forward to staying connected.
Alesha, thank you so much. What a true honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Seriously. Oh my gosh, y'all. We done got this off to a great start. You know we're going to continue, because up next we got Karissa Braxton in the building. She's in my field, y'all. Senior Communications Advisor for the Office of the Mayor of the City of Seattle, y'all. I'm excited to have her join me. You definitely don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Trae Holiday. We're teaming up with Public Health Seattle and King County to remind you that back to school time means making sure your kids are up to date on their vaccinations. Public Health Seattle and King County is offering free back to school vaccine clinics for kids ages 0 to 18 all fall. You heard that right, free. No matter what your insurance situation is, they got you covered. Getting your kids vaccinated is the best way to protect them from serious diseases like measles, mumps, and whooping cough, and it's required for them to attend school or childcare. So call your health clinic pediatrician or doctor today to make sure your kids have all their required vaccinations. You can also visit kingcounty.gov/find a clinic to find a clinic near you. Let's work together to keep our kids healthy and in school. Peace.
Washington's charter public schools prioritize equitable learning opportunities for all students and strive for openness at every level. Teachers work with parents to build a trusting and supportive learning environment for students. To learn more, visit wacharters.org.
Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle is bringing a whole lot of star power to town as Taraji P. Henson and Hill Harper headline their 23rd annual breakfast happening November 22nd at the Seattle Convention Center Summit. Grab your tickets now at urbanleague.org.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, for this Winning Women's Wednesday for Women's History Month. I'm excited because right now I get the pleasure to speak with Karissa Braxton. What's up, Karissa?
Hey, thank you for having me today.
Yeah, you know what? You're always in the background. So
I
today
am.
it's all about the foreground. And I understand why you're always doing that, because you're always coordinating these amazing opportunities to share what the mayor's office is doing. Tell us about, how you got into this amazing role as the senior communications advisor.
Honestly, I think it was all God. And the reason I say that is because I didn't necessarily go looking to go over there in the timing that it happened. I've been with the city for 7 years, which was shocking to me, but I was getting all these notifications on LinkedIn like, congratulations. And I'm like, for what? I was like, oh, I've been at the city for 7 years. Like, time really flies when you're working. And I have been in different communication roles for years. And the mayor's office team, who I had been working with very closely for nearly 2 years, reached out to me about an opportunity to join their communications team working directly with the mayor. And it was a great opportunity. I went over, and honestly, I've been really loving it ever since.
Well, something about communications, this is why I'm excited to talk to you, because, this is my jam.
Yes.
But something specific about communications that allows us to really not only be a part of the messaging, but then wield the messaging,
Yes.
right? And so I want to talk to you a bit about how you do that. How do you stay a part of it, and then also craft the opportunities and the messaging so that people in the city of Seattle know what's going on?
Absolutely. That's a big question. I believe that when you are in the field of communications, you have an awesome responsibility. I very much believe that narratives both are in response to what's happening, and it also wields what is. And what I mean by that is, I think if you look at common narratives that are out in society, both the good and the bad, right? They come on the forefront and they come on the back end. So you can have somebody who can speak something, into existence, and then all of a sudden the atmosphere has an opportunity to respond. And if you do that for the good, then good things happen. But I think we've also seen narratives when people speak things and things happen that have a negative impact on certain communities. So understanding the industry that I am in, when I decided to study journalism at Howard University, I wanted to be able to speak truth to power, but I wanted to tell the stories that I knew were not always captured in the ways that I thought were helpful. And I also wanted to be a disruptor of those narratives that I saw people were picking up and putting other people down in the process. And my journey has been interesting. It wasn't as linear as I thought it was going to be in 2014 when I left Howard, but I'm grateful for that, because every twist, every turn, every dip, every movement, prepared me for whatever was next that I wasn't anticipating. And I try to take everything that I have, all of my life experience, all of my technical acumen, so that every day when I'm going to serve the city that I love, I grew up here, I do it with integrity, and I do it understanding. I truly believe that with the tongue we speak life or death. And that's not just in religious settings. With the tongue, we speak life or death from our pulpits, from our podiums. For the people that you work with, you're always speaking life or death. And what I want to make sure happens at the end of my day, that everything that I wrote, everything that I said, or anything that I was a part of that created something to be is life-giving. Yeah. And that's really what drives me.
Well, Karissa, this is, first off, go Bison. Hello.
Come on.
Okay, come on. I was there just a little before you, but it's all good. No, but I'll say that, the thing that I really appreciate about what you just shared is it's clear that you have a very solid vision for the way that you approach communications. And that is key.
Yeah.
Because what I have also noticed sometimes is that, we think the work speaks for itself. And that's not always the case. And in order to really get folks engaged, specifically when we're talking about political industry, I mean, that civic engagement is real. But in order to do that, the messaging has to resonate with the people.
Exactly.
And so I really appreciate you talking about it speaking life, giving life, being that positive, affluence into someone's perspective of how to understand what's going on here at the city of Seattle. Now, for someone who's born and bred here, loves it here, tell us about some of those peaks throughout your career that got you here, where you were like, man, this was one of the greatest learning lessons for me along my journey. Give us some of those details.
Wow, another loaded question. In 2016, I was running a political campaign for Erin Jones, and I don't know if you recall, but she was running for the office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. I was 23 or 24 at the time, running a statewide campaign. It truly was crazy. We had no business doing it, but she literally saw something in me, and she was like, I want you to be a part of my team, and I trust that you will be able to do this. And for me, that was one of the most pivotal parts of my career, because I was put in a space where I was not comfortable. I did not feel qualified. I felt intimidated because I was significantly younger than everybody, and I'd never done it before. And I'm a perfectionist. I'm very meticulous. I really want to do a good job. I think myself honestly into anxiousness at times. And she really pushed me, and she told me to basically do it afraid. And although we didn't win that campaign, the amount of learning that I had in that role, I mean, all the skills that I learned there, it transitioned with me when I eventually did come to the city in a different capacity. And it just was more tools from my tool belt. But learning early on that even when you don't feel ready, sometimes you have to do it afraid. And other people who see the things that you don't even see in yourself yet, you should trust them and not the fear that is probably talking to you. Now, when the mayor's office came calling, granted, I'm pretty confident that I'm good at what I do. And yet, when they came calling and said, there's an opportunity and we think that you would be good for it, my first reaction was not, oh, Karissa, this is an amazing opportunity. They've seen the works that you've been doing over time. You should lean into this. I was afraid. And I really had to step back and think about, am I ready to jump into something new and something that I wasn't looking for at the time? And I'm embarrassed to say, but I almost said no. And my village was the one who basically was like, Karissa, are you crazy? You need to step into this. You are more than capable. You're more than ready. They're not calling you just because they woke up one day and decided. Your works have spoken for you. This is your opportunity. Just jump. And I did. And I landed. And then I had to ask myself, why were you so afraid that you wouldn't be able to land? Because you've done it at every point in my career. It's always been a jump where I thought I wasn't ready. And so the biggest lessons that I continue to learn, because, it's always evolving. You never know what's on the other side of another opportunity, is if I feel anxiousness in me. And it's not like the anxiousness where you feel like, this is a horrible opportunity. If the anxiousness is driven by, I don't think I'm perfect yet, then I know I'm in the right place that I need to be. And I know I need to jump because I have evidence that every time I've jumped, I was ready. Yes, I'll grow, but I had everything that I needed. I just needed to trust myself and trust that I'd be caught, I should say, on the other side of really faith.
Yeah, no, believing in yourself is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where that's where we question ourselves the most, right? We can give everybody else the tool. Right, I can tell you how to do your stuff, but for me, hold on, when I gotta put that mirror in front of me, then it's different, right? And so I appreciate that, but I also love what you were talking about in terms of the village. Almost any Black woman in leadership, if we do not have a strong village that is with us along the way, rooting us on, folks that we can trust, oftentimes we find ourselves in a silo. And it's a bit about what Alesha was talking about, right? Where we have this burden, we can end up in the hospital. Anything can happen with our physical health because we don't have that village. Tell us about that importance for you along the way, and maybe some of the tips that you would give a young person looking to dive into their layer of leadership.
Absolutely. One of my biggest blessings that I believe I had is that I was born to leaders. My mother and my father are both leaders in their own right. Now, both of my parents are Leos, fire signs, a lot of fire. I'm a Sagittarius, even more energy. And I love my parents because they are both leaders in their own right, but they do it differently. My father, because of his personality and his vocation, he's very much in front of people. My mother, on the other side, she's in the background type of person. But when I tell you that when my mom, she can move everything in the atmosphere and everyone responds to her. She's excellent at what she does. So growing up, I had two distinctly different but complementary visions of what does it mean to lead. And at the root of both of those leadership examples is service. They're servant leaders. The village that I grew up with and that raised me, they are all servant leaders. No matter what occupation that they have, they all are rooted in serving someone else and not just, I want to be in front for sake of my own ego. And so as I have come into my own, whether I am working at the city or whether I'm doing things with Delta, my sorority, or whether I am doing things, I'm on the board of directors of a wonderful, the Katie Hall Foundation that's all about women and girls and rising them, or whether I'm just with my friends and my family, what I have learned is leadership, and the type of leadership people appreciate and respond to is that of which you are serving alongside. You don't always have to be in front, right? I think a lot of times past leadership examples, it was always the dominant personality that was up front. People responded, you gave an order, people went. And that serves its purpose in certain respects. However, when we think about how do we transform our communities, we serve alongside and with, because no one person has everything it's going to take to tackle the challenge, right? Adaptive change, it's not technical. It has to be flexible, and you only are able to figure out what's the right move when you bring the voices together. And the best leader brings people together, moves towards decision making, and the biggest lesson I've also learned in terms of leadership is you make the tough calls and you take the hits. And I think that is one of the pieces. You know, sometimes everybody wants the accolades, but they don't want the criticism. Everybody wants the attention, but when the big call has to be made, it's particularly if it's not favorable, you don't want to be the one to make the call because you don't want to make anybody mad. And so I encourage young people, particularly if you're going to step into roles of leadership, first and foremost, be prepared. There will be great times where everybody will love you and everything you say will be magical and your personality will shine. And then there will be times where you have to make a decision that's tough. And can you show up at that tough point? And can you rally the people around you when things are challenging and it's not clear? Can you rally them to keep moving forward and let them know it's going to be okay? It's going to be hard, but it's going to be okay. And we have to keep moving forward. And if and when you make a mistake, and I just said I was a perfectionist, I hate making mistakes. But if and when you make mistakes, embracing your humanity and giving yourself and giving others another opportunity to try again. To me, those are the biggest keys that you have to embrace when we're thinking about leadership. And in this day and age where, you know, everybody just people want to be seen and be the personality, that's great. But true leaders are not just those who want to be seen. When it is time to step up, you know, there are those qualities where you have to come up front. But never be afraid and think that if you are leading from the background that it's not valid, because that's where a lot of power is as well. Yeah. And I try to balance those things as I navigate my roles, and I encourage other people who are leading. If you're quiet, it's okay. Lead quietly, but you're still leading. And if you're loud, lead loud. Create space, but use everything you have and just stay grounded in your values. And I think that those are the most important things you have to remember.
Yeah, this is so powerful, Karissa, because everything you said resonates with me so much. I think, you know, this Women's History Month, as we talk about Black women in leadership, you know, I think about how so much of what you just shared resonates with so many others. And really, there's again, I've been saying this, there are these threads of continuity when we think about our stories and how shared they actually are, no matter what industry you're in. So I just appreciate you and all of your leadership there at the mayor's office in communications. You're phenomenal and doing a great job. Of course, if folks want to tap in and stay connected to all the work that's happening at the mayor's office, please look right here. Let them know how they do so.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to know what our amazing mayor is doing, or really just the work of the city, I always encourage people to go to seattle.gov, where you can sign up for newsletters and understand where people's social media handles are. Again, there's so much work that's happening in Seattle from all of our departments and partners, and I really encourage people to tap in, get to know what's going on and everything, stay informed and stay connected.
Karissa, great work today. Don't let this be the last time, because I see you got the fire. I'm here for it every time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Y'all don't know how many times she's been right here in the background making sure people are saying the right things when she done booked them on the show. So I love being able to spotlight her and her leadership and her journey. Of course, y'all know I'm going to wrap up all of this Winning Women's Wednesday right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Disney and Cameron McIntosh's Mary Poppins comes to life on stage at the Fifth Avenue Theatre, featuring Step in Time and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Make it a jolly holiday at Mary Poppins. For tickets, visit fifthavenue.org.
A world of wonder awaits at Pacific Northwest Ballet's The Nutcracker. Treat your loved ones to the Northwest's favorite holiday tradition at Seattle Center's McCall Hall. Visit pnb.org.
Here on Back to Vesa, it's always been important to me that we uplift stories from across the region, and that no matter where you live in the nation, you never have to miss a moment of the show as we continue to highlight the beauty, excellence, and resilience of our communities across the Pacific Northwest. Why? Because representation matters. So no matter where you live, be it the Central District or Centralia, Portland or Pullman, or anywhere across the country, I encourage you to join me on this Back to Vesa journey by downloading the free Fox Local app on your phone or smart TV as we continue to elevate the very best in our communities.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I'm telling you, wonderful winning Women's Wednesday for Women's History Month today. Y'all, it was such a pure pleasure to have Alesha and Karissa on talking about their own journeys in leadership as Black women. This is a theme for us, not only this week where we get to shine a light on so many who are doing great work, but also in Women's History Month, it's important that we uplift the stories of those who are often not told. And I'll tell you this, when it comes to our history, there's a lot of women who were leading from the back, like Karissa was talking about, whose stories never really got told, who their lives were never really on the forefront. But you can't imagine how many women were making things happen during the civil rights era. Even with Malcolm X's journey, there were so many women who were doing the work behind the scenes. And I just want to give a shout out to all of you phenomenal women who are leading, whether you're in the front, the back, the side. We appreciate the encouragement that you continue to pour into the movements you're involved in. And no matter what, the inspiration abounds. Y'all know I was inspired today by what Alesha and Karissa shared. I want you to be inspired, because if you're not a woman, if you don't identify as a woman, and you're just out here, I'm telling you, there's a way that you can plug in to some phenomenal leadership with all of the women in your world. And there's also a way that you can pour into the world around you by becoming a leader. Some folks will say, hey, I'm not a leader. That's okay. It takes all kinds, my mama says. And she's a phenomenal leader in her own right. But I encourage y'all to be inspired, because when you're inspired, it is really the antithesis of apathy to be inspired and to be engaged. And I encourage you to do so. Of course, for me, until tomorrow at 11 a.m., y'all. Peace.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.